So here we have the Adidas Silverbirch SPZL Goldie Metalheadz, and this is celebrating 10 years of SPZL. So this is an Adidas line of sneakers that takes inspiration from the older models and puts a bit of a spin on them, and this one's no exception. And it's also celebrating Goldie's and Metalheadz 30th anniversary. So Metalheadz is, as far as I know, Goldie's record label, which was formed 30 years ago. And Goldie is an experiential drum and bass artist, in my opinion, and more on the sort of dance scene. Very popular, especially in the UK and around Europe, and also pretty much worldwide as well. And I'm a big fan of his studio albums. I kind of like that experiential drum and bass sound, and so that's why I was interested in these sneakers. And these sneakers themselves were inspired by Adidas Denver. I couldn't find a picture of them, but with those ones, I suppose they look very much similar to this in terms of being the runner style. And it also takes inspiration from a guy called Robert Brooks, who works for Adidas SPZL, and the name for this is Silverbirch, and that's named out a place in London. And as I mentioned earlier, this is like the runner style, so it's kind of got that old school late 80s, early 90s type looking trainer. So with the details, it comes in a cloud white and gold metallic colour, which you can see on the upper. And the gold hits are sort of kept to a minimum, which I really like. And obviously it's been Goldie, and you could have, produced a sneaker that had overall, gold everywhere. But I kind of like that it's been sort of restrained somewhat. And this has a basic insole, in my opinion. There's nothing special going on here. It's branded for, Goldie being this sort of pink colour. I'm not going to put it out completely because it's sort of stuck to the bottom. But you can see in here, there's not really much cushioning on there. It's just quite sort of simple and standard Adidas fare. And in terms of the outsole, it says it's got a rubber cup sole. It's not very soft or plush. It's very firm on foot, as you can sort of see when I'm pressing into it. It's just almost like a block of wood. And the upper is made up of all leather and nylon materials, so it's got this mesh material at the front on the toe box. The leather looks like it's of good quality. You can sort of see it's got pebbling all over it and feels quite nice to the touch. And then the side panels here, as far as I know, it's got on the medial and lateral side, it's more sort of this nylon material. You can sort of probably hear that. It's one of those ones where, it's par for the course. And then this sort of mesh lining, I've not really seen too much on sneakers, how this is done, mesh lining on the midsole. And the price for these is £120. So with the comfort and sizing, these aren't really comfortable in my opinion. They're quite sort of very firm on foot. Probably one of the most firmest sneakers I've tried this year. And again, that's to do with the insole itself not being very comfortable, and the midsole outsole combination just being rock hard. So there isn't really any comfort in there. I'm not sure if that sort of breaks in over time, but it's pretty rock hard. It's not like it's uncomfortable, but it's probably a peg down from, say, an Air Max 1. And again, like the insole, there isn't really much support for the arch, so it's quite a neutral sneaker. I will say, like the Air Max 1, your heel sits slightly elevated, so this point here it slopes downwards, which is pretty much in the runner vein. You put more foot, tension on your forefoot, so obviously if you're running, you have an easier time, getting off your forefoot area, and just having lift off. I would say true to size in these. However, if you've got a wide foot, definitely look to go up half size, which is what I did. And I find with Adidas sneakers, they do run tight. So just to give you an explanation, the Adidas trainers and sizes are a bit same as like New Balance. They're a bit weird in terms of how they sort of size for international purposes, but for the UK, they pretty much correspond to, I suppose, Nike sizes. So this one in particular, I bought a 7.5 UK size, which is an 8 US size, and with the Nike it would be a 7.5 UK, but 8.5 in the US. So just bear that in mind. So if you're in the US, you kind of want to go down half size, and that way you'll get near enough a perfect fit. One thing I will say is they do run quite short, so my toe comes to about here with socks on, so just be wary of that, which I'm kind of happy that I went half size up. And no wear in time with these. I think overall the upper, it feels very, very loose, very, very comfortable, very wide on foot, so I have no problems there. The only issue is this midsole outsole combination. And this has okay grip in terms of the outsole. It's got this almost stud-like kind of vibe going on, which I'm not a fan of, to tell you the truth. And I feel like they don't really feel that great when they sort of translate to sort of walking around on a day-to-day basis, and they can get sort of slippery after a while, especially when they start wearing down, in my opinion. But that's just, you know, how I feel about them. And, you know, I've had a few sneakers like this where they've got this protruding outsole, so I'm not the biggest fan of that in particular. So with the look and style, I mean, it does have that classic Adidas 80s styling, early 90s, and you can see that on the sneaker. It's very much a sort of runner vibes, and, you know, sort of standard Adidas fare. And I do like the Goldie Metalheadz branding, so I'm a big fan of the, you know, Metalheadz logo, Goldie logo that they have on here. So you can see that's on the heel, and then also on the tongue as well. You can see that's got in a pink colour. And then you got the Dubre as well, which on this side is a Adidas SPZL, and then also the hang tag as well. And it's on the other sort of side of the sneaker, you have like Goldie written on there, which is his signature touch. You can probably see that. And also on this side you have the Metalheadz logo on the heel, and then the SPZL logo on the side of the heel. So, which is quite cool, and, you know, it's a nice touch from, you know, from them to kind of put that branding on there, which I think is really cool. And I also like the fact that, you know, like I said earlier, in terms of how the sneaker looks, they haven't gone too crazy with the gold colour, because sometimes, you know, if it's just, you know, I suppose inspiration from Goldie, they could have just went all over gold and, you know, it's made it shiny and bright, but it's somewhat, you know, kind of tried to make it more wearable. And I think this is a sneaker good for sort of spring, summertime. It's not really a winter sneaker, like I said, because it's got quite a lot of breathability, and it feels pretty lightweight on foot as well, I would say. So for that reason, you know, for me, it's more of a spring, summertime vibe. And this is pretty much a streetwear, casual wear type sneaker. You know, if you are going to wear them, then obviously it's more streetwear stuff, and that's, you know, primarily what I suppose Goldie kind of represents really in the drum and bass world. And it comes with like the sail laces on here, and there's also a pair of white and pink, and I think the pink is quite a little vibrant and will go well with the tongue label and also obviously the insole. So I think the pink would work well with the gold in all honesty. But, you know, if you're looking to kind of dress them up in that way, then you can do. But also gold laces would work, because obviously sort of gold on there. So with the final thoughts, I do like the retro styling for this one, just because of the fact that it's got this different looking kind of midsole outsole combination with the little mesh lining on it. Not the biggest fan of the comfort, but the overall look of it looks quite cool, and that's what sort of attracted me to it. And also just the overall Goldie branding on here, so I think they've done a good job of that, just to kind of show the Metalheadz branding. And like I said, I do like the colourway as well. I like the way it's been represented, and I'm not a fan of gold sneakers, but this one I think has just hit the nail on the head in terms of how to execute it. And I like the fact that it's got extras in there. So as I mentioned, it's got the lace Dubres and the hang tag, and then also a couple of different lace options, which is really nice, you know, to see. With the cons, the comfort, don't expect anything, you know, exceptional. It's very, very mid, almost subpar. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's one of those ones where it's from the Adidas archives and catalogues, and it's to be expected, really. And the outsole grip, just not a fan of this particular sort of protruding outsole. I'd much prefer it to be, you know, something else really, other than what we got here. Because I think after a while it starts to feel a bit slippery and not very stable on foot. So with the ratings, I give the look and style for this a 5 out of 5. I just like the way it looks, and that's what attracted me to the sneaker. I just think it looks really, really cool, and like I said, with the Goldie branding on there, it looks really cool. The comfort, I'm going to give it a 3. I was going to give it a 2, because I feel like the midsole outsole combination is very tough, very firm. But what kind of saves this is it's a lightweight sneaker, and the upper feels really nice, and there's no sort of pressure, and it just feels like a really wide base sneaker that you're not really, you know, feel like you're having any tension points. So that's the reason why I'm giving it a 3. And the quality, I give that 4. The leather on here is really nice. There's a few blemishes here and there, but overall I think they've done a good execution on this, and that's to be expected from the SPZL line. And the pricing, I'm going to give that a 3. Reason being is £120 is asking a bit much for something which has not much tech in there, which, you know, obviously not really expecting too much tech on this, but also the fact that it's one of those sneakers that's very old as well, so I think it should be a more reduced price. I think if they retailed at 100, I think they would have been, you know, pretty good for the value. But overall, I'll give the score a 4. The reason why is I think they just look cool, and they're, you know, if you're a fan of Goldie, then you probably definitely sort of jump on these, and you know they pretty much sold out on the bigger sizes, and there's only sort of really small sizes left, which I think is an indication of, you know, people really, you know, backing Goldie and really liking the overall look of the sneaker as well. So I can't really sort of fault it too much. I do think it's a nice sneaker. But it's more of a collector's piece in my eyes rather than something that you'd wear. Not to say that you couldn't, but that's the way I see it. It's more of a collector's piece that you'd have on the shelf.